Okay, so task 5. So we are going to reorder the following costs into a manufacturing account format in the empty table, and we've got to complete the missing cost totals. So I've put all of this onto one page just so we're not flicking back and forth and it's a bit easier to follow. So what we've got on the top half here, okay, is the names of the different stages. Okay, so this is just what we've discussed, and then we've got some costs associated to some of those there as well, and these aren't in the right order. What we're going to need to do is take those and put them in the correct order following how it should be posted within the manufacturing account. Okay, so if we remember first, the first thing that we had to do, that's step 1, we had to calculate the prime cost. Okay, and we know that the prime cost is our direct materials plus our direct labour. And if you remember when we went back to this stage here, so question 2, to get our direct material used, we had to look at our opening inventory, our purchases and our closing inventory, and this is based on raw materials here. Okay, so that's where we're starting with within this account. So first one will be opening inventory of raw materials. Okay, that's the starting point here. So opening inventory of raw materials, we've got that as a figure of 62,500. Okay, so we'll just put a little tick next to that there. Then we have to add our purchases to there, so our purchases of raw materials. And this is a common process you'll have to follow. So 105,850 there. So we can give a little tick next to that one. And then next we have our closing inventory of raw materials. And starting with that process, naturally we're going to start with those raw materials before we start getting to work in progress, before we start getting to finished goods. Okay, and the figure for that should be 48,000, which is just here. And from that we know that we get our direct materials used. Okay, so that's our direct materials used. And if you remember, to calculate this, we need to take our opening inventory plus our purchases minus our closing inventory. So if we follow that, we should get a total for direct materials used of 120,350, and I'll put that in a different colour just so you can see that that's a total figure there. Okay, and we can tick off direct materials used up there. Next we then need to add on our direct labour, and that should be for 235,150, which is just there, and that will give us our prime cost. Okay, and we know our prime cost is our direct materials used plus our direct labour, so that should give us 355,500. So we've got our prime cost figure there. Then we need to add on our manufacturing overheads. So remember, these were our indirect costs. Okay, and that will be for the amount of 89,700, which is second from the top there. And that way, when we add that to our prime cost, we get our manufacturing cost. Okay, so again, add those together and we should get 445,200. Okay. Now that we've worked out our manufacturing cost, okay, so our prime cost plus our manufacturing overheads, we then need to move on to looking at work in progress and finished goods. So naturally, the next stage is to look at the work in progress, and we'll have opening and closing inventory figures for each of those. So we'll start with the opening inventory. And I'll just shorten that down to WIP for work in progress, and that should be for 36,000. So we can tick that off there. And then we've got our closing inventory figure as well, and that's for the amount of 32,400. There we go. And what that will give us is our cost of goods manufactured. Now what we need to remember to do here is, when we're working out our opening inventory and closing inventory figures, so we take the manufacturing cost there of 445,200. We need to add our opening inventory of 36,000, and then we need to minus the closing inventory figure of 32,400. Okay, what that should give you is a figure of 448,800. Okay, and then finally looking at the finished goods, so opening inventory of, and I'll shorten finished goods down to FG, for 19,450, which is the top one there. And then we have our closing inventory of finished goods, and that should be a figure of 22,600, which is just here. Okay, what that will then give us is our cost of goods sold, and again we take the cost of goods manufactured, we add the opening inventory of finished goods, and then we deduct the closing inventory of finished goods, which should give you a final figure of 445,650. Okay, and that's everything in there posted into the manufacturing account. So it will be the same process every time that you're working through the manufacturing account. You're always going to do this in the same order. Okay, so just getting used to following this process maybe running through a few examples yourself, 2, 3, 4 times maybe, it definitely helps for it to stick in place and will definitely help you tackle future questions. Okay, so we've got another one of those to look at now. So another example, just to see some different figures, but actually the names will still go in the right order. So let's have a look through this. So opening inventory of raw materials, starting in the same place. Okay, and that should be for the amount of 110,000. That's 110,000, not 111,000. There we go. We've got our purchases of raw materials, and this will be for an amount of 260,800, and then we've got our closing inventory of raw materials as well. And that will be for the amount of 102,000. That then gives us our direct materials used. So total figure for that will be 268,800. Remember, we take our opening inventory plus purchases and then minus our closing inventory. Then we can include our direct labour, and that should be for an amount of 376,000, giving a total prime cost of 644,800. Okay. Next, we've got our manufacturing overheads. So again, our indirect costs here. And that's for the amount of 198,000. And that gives us our manufacturing cost. So if we add those together, it gives us a total of 842,800. Okay, adding our prime cost and our manufacturing overheads there. Then we can move on to looking at the opening and closing inventory of work in progress. So opening inventory of work in progress, so that should be for the amount of 72,500. We've then got our closing inventory of work in progress, and that should be for the amount of 67,900, giving our cost of goods manufactured figure of, and I'll put this in blue, so the cost of goods manufactured figure of 847,400. And then finally, looking at the opening inventory of the finished goods, and this should be for 56,240, we can then add our, we can then include our closing inventory of finished goods for 42,600, and finally getting that cost of goods sold figure of 861,040p. Okay, so again, worked out the cost of goods manufactured plus opening inventory of finished goods minus closing inventory of finished goods gives us our cost of goods sold figure. Okay, so another example there, running through from start to finish. Next, which of the statements below are true? So we've got the fixed cost per unit will increase as production increases. That is not a true.
Hi there, and thank you for watching the video. If you're new here and passionate about everything accounting, then don't forget to subscribe and give us a follow. We're proud to deliver the best standard of support to our students. We have bespoke study materials, exclusive AAT unit videos, award-winning tutors, and so much more. Make sure to follow us on our social platforms to stay up to date with what we're working on. Thank you.